Welcome back to TML Weekly, episode 6. Today we'll be talking about Zadorov potentially coming to the Leafs or potentially being on the move in NHL. The Leafs traveling to Sweden along with Minnesota, Detroit, and Ottawa, and what the Leafs should do with Ryan Reaves. First things first, though, we'll see what the boys are up to. Johnny Mac, how's it going?
Good. Just busy. Lots going on out here, and got to do a shout out to the Halifax Red Hawks AA Adam or U11. I guess I can't say Adam anymore. They started out first 13 undefeated. So Jack and his teammates are playing well. They're 11-0-2. So good on them. And they got a real good team. So we're in Charlottetown this weekend for a tournament. And, other than that, ready to talk about the Leafs.
Sweet. John?
Hey, feeling good. The Leafs are starting to pick up the pace here a little bit. It was a better homestand than I had kind of thought. But for those of you who do know me and know me well, I am as much of a Leaf fan as I am a diehard Buffalo Bills fan. And let me tell you, today is salvation for us because the shackles have been unleashed on Josh Allen. We finally got rid of the offensive coordinator. And my only hope is that Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment was watching and are going to see the positive effects that the removal of a coach who shouldn't have been there in the first place has on the Bills. And they see the light. We get rid of Keefe and we start to, go to the mountain, the promised land. But I digress. Let's not talk Bills football. Let's talk the Leafs.
Okay, and just before we get started here, just want to mention thank you to our sponsors, Bjorn and Don Cherry's Sports Bar and Grill.
Yes, right. Cool. So where are we going first, Nolan?
First, we're going to touch on the unfortunate situation that happened recently over in England. And what are you guys' thoughts on that?
So you go ahead, John, and then I'll wrap up.
Just briefly explain it for the
for those who don't necessarily know what's going on. We talked about this a couple of episodes ago. In England, there was an incident, unfortunately, where a young man lost his life on the ice. Terrible situation all the way around. It was funny. I remember when we were talking about it. I said at the time, there's nothing positive that comes from this story. Unfortunately, it's gone from not positive to absolutely terrible. Young man got charged today with manslaughter in England. I don't know what to say about it other than I can't even believe that we're having this conversation. This is clearly an issue where you have people who don't understand the game, who are overly involved in the situation. There's high emotions involved, and people feel like they have to do something. And the answer apparently is to punish a 20-year-old kid. Listen, as somebody who's played contact sports, whether it's football, whether it's hockey, there is implicit risk that goes on in the game. And I'm going to use an example. It's not a great example, but it's something that is going to be kind of familiar for everybody. If you think back to the Bertuzzi incident where he attacked him, he attacked him from behind, and you can make a case for that. There's no implicit risk in being assaulted from behind on a rabid punch to the back of the head. I can get there with that if you want to make a case. This is a hockey play. This is a guy who was avoiding a hip check, who spun out in the air and unfortunately caught the other guy in a terrible situation. And I think that unfortunately, you're going to find this is a case where you have people who are not involved in the game, who are making decisions about things that have happened on the ice, who don't understand the speed of the game, who don't understand the pace of play, who don't understand, the sheer the sheer scientific improbabilities of this being done at a manslaughter level. This guy is not Jackie Chan. This guy is a young guy who just was in the bad place at the bad time. And I think what this accomplishes is only making this young man's life even worse. It doesn't help the family. It certainly does not help the game. And it does nothing but punish a young man who really shouldn't be in this position at all. That's my take on it, Johnny. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that he's got to go through it.
Yeah, you know what, John? For once in the history of our friendship, I actually agree with you on everything you said. I played in that league. I played in that England league or British league. And yeah, I mean, do I think the kid's going to get convicted of manslaughter? Absolutely not. I think experts will be brought in, and that, you know, if this thing even gets to trial, here's my problem with it. You wouldn't have even been charged in this country or the U.S. or Sweden, Finland, you know, traditional hockey markets, Czech Republic, Russia. That you know, people, you know,
maybe Russia. Maybe Russia.
Well, maybe you know what, you might. Yeah, I don't know. The problem is there's a couple things. This kid has a little bit of a reputation of being a little bit of a maybe a bully or a snap show or a tough guy, whatever we want to call it. They're kind of painting him with that. So, well, you know, he did this, but you're right. He's not Jackie Chan. It's not if you're going to hurt somebody in a hockey game, you're going to cross-check their teeth out, or you're going to spear them, or you're going to, you know what I mean? You're not going, oh, I think I'll slice that guy's throat. Or, you know, that's just not, I don't care who you are. That's never going to happen. So, yeah, the poor kid, he's suffering enough. Both teams, Nottingham and Sheffield, have both, you know, basically said that, you know, accident, pure accident, blah, 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 blah. I think, you know, when you have a death that's so high profile in a jurisdiction, I think that maybe the local constables or constabulary, they have feel maybe a pressure, but I think they should have thought about this. I don't think the charges stick, but I worry for that young man's mental health moving forward. I'm sure he's already sick about the fact that there's another kid that didn't get to go home after the season. But yeah, it's a shame. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I love the fact that a lot of leagues are jumping aboard and getting the neck guard put in. I think it's going to be mandatory everywhere down the road. But there's some supply chain issues right now. I know there's a couple leagues that wanted to implement it immediately, but didn't have the product available. So yeah.
Can I jump in here for a second?
Sure.
Because I want to put this in perspective. Okay. When I hear somebody say there's supply chain issues. Okay. I think we all need to pause and go, a league like the NHL. Okay. If the NHL decided they wanted to take a lead on this, the NHL, with their buying power and their money, could go to CCM, could go to Nike, could go to whoever you wanted and say, here's what we're going to do. I want to mass produce this product and I want it out everywhere. And we're going to cut you a check for $35 million. Whatever, pick a number. It doesn't matter what the number is. They have the ability to do it if they want.
They're not going to do this. They can't do this because of the Players Association. No. At this point, this is a bargaining chip for both sides, right? So if the NHL wants to implement this, the PA is going to ask for something, and that's going to open that can of worms. They've encouraged it. The PA has said we'd obviously any protection available. What I'm talking about is I think it was the Western League or the Saskatchewan League. One of the base. It's not long, John. So supply chain issues means we can't implement it tomorrow, but I think whatever league I'm talking about, or
it's over the queue or whatever. Okay,
it's going to be Jan 1, right? Because that gives them 6 weeks to get. I mean, there's 30 25 guys on a team and 16, 20 teams or whatever it is. They wanted to make sure, because some teams came back and said, well, wait, the stock isn't there, and that it didn't mean, it wasn't a cop out. It just meant we strongly advise that they wear them immediately. And when the product comes in, it will be mandatory as of January 1, 24. I'm okay with that. NHL, it's going to be like anything, and then the PA will want this, and the NHL will want that, and the Olympics will be thrown in, and
wouldn't it be nice
which is a shame. Because you're right, they're the top level. They need to take the lead on it. They won't. There's no way they can't.
Would it not be? Would it, like, again? And I'm not in the public relations department of the NHL, but if I was the NHL right now, if I was Gary Bettman, I would be on the phone to David Branch. I'd be on the phone to the lady that runs the queue now. And I would say to them, you tell us what the check is that you need. And we're going to cut the check. And we're going to get the product to you. Do you know the goodwill that would provide for the NHL on a situation like this? It's a positive story to tell. And you can't buy that kind of positive press. Just a thought, Gary Bettman, if you're listening, I'm just telling you, might be an idea.
They wouldn't even let a kid tape a stick with pride tape, John. Okay, so there's not a lot of common sense going on in that office right now.
I'm just saying. I
agree. I'm saying that there's not a lot of common sense in that office. I reported back in the spring. I think this is Bettman's last year.
You did. I remember that. And you know what? Shout out to it was an ex-Leaf. Was it Connor Brown that did the tape and said,
no,
who was it?
Travis
Dermott.
Travis Dermott. Shout out to Travis Dermott.
Yeah.
Because Travis Dermott sat there and said, you know what? I'm going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
You know what? And regardless of your stance on whatever your issues are, shout out to Travis Dermott, standing up for what he believed in, did the right thing. Good on Travis Dermott. I love it.
Well, and here's the thing too, as you guys know, I'm involved in our sponsor Bjorn Hockey, and a couple things that are in the pipeline with Bjorn right now is a pride stick. So it'll be actually, there'll be some rainbow graphics on the stick that we think would represent inclusivity in the sport, which I think we're all for sure. And the other thing is I've got a factory offshore right now working on a product mainly geared to adults. So kids in Canada have neck guards, and we talked about it with you, Nolan, there last week or 2 weeks ago, where you had to wear it your whole life. My son's never gone on the ice without a neck guard. He's 9 years old. It's the adults. It's the guys in the adult safe hockey league and the rec leagues on Friday nights that I see as being concerning. So we're working on a cut-proof Under Armour that has the neck guard, Kevlar neck guard built right in, and it'll be branded Bjorn across. So we're just waiting on the prototype from the factory right now, and we're going to roll out that on a mass stage, right? And I want to market it towards that guy that a 35-year-old guy that's out on a Friday night playing hockey with the buddies, and he's got 2 little kids at home, and
at 11:30 at night after he's worked all week, and he's just
right.
trying to get out. And 100%, John.
Yeah.
That's great.
And those kind of events can happen there quite a bit easier, right? You don't have the higher skill level. It's a little slower, obviously, but there's guys, scrambles in front of the net, and the guy loses his footing, and he comes, So I'd like to think all these adult groups will be mandating it. So we're going to be ready to put a product out there that isn't going to disrupt the you know what I mean. It's not just like wrapping something around your neck. It's just putting on a turtleneck, basically.
You're giving them the Thomas Plekanec special.
Yeah, that's going to help save your life. So anyway, enough about that. You know what? We'll see how it plays out. I'm sure we'll talk about it next week and the week after until they get smart enough.
Yeah, we'll follow it.
Yeah, cool.
All right, now I think we should dive into some Leafs talk. What do you think?
Well,
Sure.
So listen, I think what let's talk before we get into Sweden and the William Nylander homecoming and all that good jazz. Listen, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't touch on kind of where we left off last week. Listen, we made some bold predictions at the end of the episode. Listen, I was uncomfortable with where we were as a team. I had us picking up 2 out of the 6 points. We ended up getting 4. But if we're being honest, listen, we were down 4-1 in that game. And we should, the way that team came out in that game was, there's unacceptable levels of performance. And then there's what took place there. That was a team that was, never mind, not interested in playing in that first period.
Which game are you talking about? What game?
Tampa.
The Tampa game.
Yeah.
There's not interested. And then there was a lack of effort. That whole period, there was nothing going on. And the most concerning part about that first period to me was when they panned over to the bench. Everybody had their head down. The body language was filthy, absolutely disgusting. And I was watching the game with Kara Grace, and even Kara looked at me and she said, "Dad, they look depressed. Like they look like they don't know what's going on." Now, who I will give full marks for, absolutely full marks for, is Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews decided, and it's about bloody time he did, in that second period, he put that first goal in, and he gave the crowd with the hands. And I thought, where has that guy been? Where has that fire been? We need that fire. And you want to know what happened? The crowd radiated off of it. The bench radiated off of it. And he made a difference, and that's why we won that hockey game. Period.
Absolutely.
Full stop. Full stop.
Totally agree. It's momentum. It's, peaks and valleys, and it's November still, and I thought we'd get 5 out of 6 on that 3-gamer. Who was it? Ottawa, Calgary, Vancouver.
Yeah,
I thought we'd go 5. We got 4, and that's losing a stinker against Ottawa. Ottawa's always going to come in and play them tough, right? That's always going to happen. Ottawa, Montreal, Detroit, Boston. It doesn't matter where they are in the standings. It's going to be a good hockey game because
throw Buffalo in there too. Buffalo's
in there too. Absolutely. Yeah. And then some of the Florida teams, it's like that now. Colorado's, it's like that now, where, there's the Western Canadian teams sometimes, there's a big, Toronto's a rival with everybody. Nobody has the as many enemies as the Leafs do. So, and nobody has, all the other teams have 2 or 3 or 4 kids from Southern Ontario that are coming in and, ready to go. And you also got, veterans that got run out of this market for, whatever it is that they did. And so you gotta be on every night. It's, it's November. I'm not concerned. They got 4 out of 6, beat a real good Vancouver team and smothered them, to be quite honest. That wasn't, that didn't look like Toronto made Vancouver look very, very ordinary, and Vancouver had been just hammering teams.
Hold on, let's be honest though. Let's be honest. Like, John, I'm a big man. I'm a big fan of cheering the good. But let's be honest. Thatcher Demko was Ilya Samsonov in that game. There was about 3 softies that went in. Yeah. That you just kind of went like, whoo. The difference with Vancouver on their 10-2 run is those goals have not been going in. That was the difference.
Yeah, but they've been scoring 5 and 6 a game too, and they didn't do that.
But
right?
But that's the issue. The issue here is, for me, again, with the Leafs, I could give a crap about what Vancouver does. Couldn't give a crap. I look at the Leafs. For once, we got a few softies in, and for once, Samsonov showed up and made a few saves. That was the difference in the game. But let's not say that we completely dominated them.
They smothered them. Smothered
I
them
don't think
5
we
on
did.
5.
I'll be
Smothered
honest.
them 5 on 5.
I guess. I don't feel
Do
like
you think
I saw
so?
that
Samsonov beat them?
No, I think Thatcher Demko beat them.
It's teamed. No. Thatcher Demko's been. You know, it's easy to stop the puck when you're up 4-0. When it's 1-1 or you're down 2-1, it's harder to stop the puck.
Both of Vancouver's goals came on the power play too.
Yeah, and they were 2 on the fights that
which I'm okay with. And listen,
yeah, I was good with it too.
Let's get into that for a second, because I think in this market there was a lot of the you know me, I like to call them the muffins. A lot of the muffins were fired up because we were taking instigator penalties. For me, I loved it. John, I'm with you 100%. Yeah. I take, especially after the Liljegren incident, right? There was nothing I loved more than watching 40-year-old Mark Giordano go in and let's call a spade a spade. He laid a beating on him. There was
he for sure, he won the fight. I that kid's a tough kid. I've seen him go before.
And he landed about 3 or 4 right on the button.
Yeah.
I went, good for you, Mark.
And that changed the identity of this team. And to add to what you said, I think that happened. And don't forget who's not. And we're going to talk about him in a bit. There, Ryan Reaves. He's not in the lineup, right? So he's scratched. All of a sudden, we have an incident. You know, I wouldn't say comparable to the Liljegren, but yeah, I mean, it was a hit, a high hit that deserved some retribution. And what did I say to you last week? You guys said, "Oh, why didn't Ryan?" I said the closest effing guy to what happens has to do it. It doesn't mean enough when your tough guy comes on 3 minutes later for a shift and fights their tough guy, or goes after the guy that did it and gets jumped. No, it has to be. If you want team toughness, it doesn't have anything to do with that guy sitting on the bench for 56 minutes of a hockey game and goes out and fights somebody. That's not team toughness. Toughness is, all for one and one for all. That guy hit my guy. I see it out of the corner of my eyes. I'm the oldest guy in the league. I don't care. It does not matter. And he could have got his head punched in by Joshua, and it still would have been the move. And it still would have brought his team a little closer. Then Domi goes and does it. Perfect. I've been wanting to see him show some emotion since he got here.
Okay, so listen, I agree with everything you just said. I do. That's the kind of hockey I like to see. That's the way I was brought up playing the game. That's the way you were brought up playing the game. And if we're being honest, that's the way every player on that team was brought up playing the game. The difference is, this is the very first time we've seen it actually happen. So now the question is it a fundamental shift in the ideology of this team? Is this what we can expect on a go-forward basis? Or are we going to see kind of what we've been used to seeing over the last few years?
No.
We get a little bit, we move a little bit forward, and then we take a lot back. That's it. The only way to know that is what we see in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah. And so I am, and I'll admit it, and I'm happy for once. I'm happy to admit this. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, no, you know what? I tell me your thoughts, Nolan. But I thought it worked out well, right? Yeah, you go down 2-0 on the power play, girls, or 2-1 or whatever it was. Whippy do. Right now you're a little bit bigger. You feel a little bit bigger, and guess what? You didn't have 75 on the bench either.
And on top of that, Nolan, before you get into it, on top of that, we on this team know we can put the puck in the net. You go down 2, the game's not over.
Yep.
But right? but you don't go down 2 and you don't address it, the game's over.
Game's over, 100%.
Yeah. What do you think, Noel?
I just had a question for you guys. If say the exact same situation happened, like Camp and Robertson both get hit like that again, but Reaves is in the lineup, do you think Gio and Domi are going to fight, or are they just going to let?
Yeah, I think they are. I think they have to.
Yeah.
Hey, it's like I've said all along, you can't wait for that guy. That's why the guys like Tom Wilson and guys that can play a regular shift or play in the top 6 and fight are the most valuable guys in the NHL right now. Most valuable guys. Because if I've got a guy like Tom Wilson out on the ice for 16 to 17 minutes a night, right? That's a third of the game that people are going to check their behavior. They're going to go, oh shit, that guy's on the ice. I'm not going to, run at this guy.
Hey, Johnny,
and that's the thing. People
love
know. You're aware. If you're in the National Hockey League, you know exactly who's on the ice on the other team. Check the game notes, right? You know who can fight. You know all that kind of stuff.
And don't kid yourself. Alexander Ovechkin's very best friend in the world is Tom freaking Wilson.
Sure.
Because Tom Wilson opens up so much room on the ice for Ovechkin because guys know you cannot run Ovechkin. You cannot go at – I mean, Ovechkin, to be fair, Ovechkin's tough on his own.
Yeah.
Right? He's not afraid. He's like a Ginla in that way. He's not afraid to get into it and give you a little. Yeah. But when you have a guy like Tom Wilson who's going, you breathe the wrong way and I'm going to eat you, it makes a difference. And so I look at Ryan Reaves, and maybe we'll get into Ryan Reaves right now. But I look at Ryan Reaves, and I'm going to give a very unpopular take that's not going to surprise either one of you. I do not blame Ryan Reaves for the results of Ryan Reaves thus far. I blame the head coach. The head coach is not utilized. Yeah. He has not utilized Ryan Reaves in the right way. That's my opinion.
How should he utilize him? He's dash 11.
He's a dash 11 because he's playing 10 minutes a night and he's trying to utilize him like a regular NHL hockey player. That's not what Ryan Reaves is at 30 years old.
They thought he was a fourth liner. They realize now that he's a role player. I think there's a spot for him here. I don't. His cap hit isn't going to hurt them. They got kids in junior that can come up on a two-way, or not in junior in with the Marlies. I think I think the guys like him. I think he's going to be an in and out of the lineup type of guy. I think depending on the opponent, I think you have him available in the playoffs to have that presence that, if you're playing somebody and they start running around, he comes in. But he plays every, one out of 2 or 3 games. You get him in there. You have a little bit of a rotation on that fourth line. I'd have 4 or 5 guys playing, mixing around and get your recipe for the playoffs. But yeah, keep them around. I don't think you cut them or release them. I think you keep them.
But so let's call a spade a spade. If you're the head coach, John, of a team right now, are you playing Ryan Reaves 10 minutes a game?
Now that I've seen what I've seen, no. At the beginning of the year, John, you would have played him 15.
No, even I wouldn't have done that.
I'm telling you,
I would have given him high. I would have given. Listen, I would have given.
He's digressed from last year, but at the end of the day, as a head coach,
you got to read the room.
You have to respect your management. You have to respect your management. Your new general manager that just gave you a little juice that you didn't think you were going to get in a couple-year extension. Signed this guy to play on your fourth line, and he was penciled in to probably play 8 to 10 minutes a game. He was better even in Minnesota last year, or wherever. Did he end up somewhere else last year?
No, he was in Minnesota, but
he was playing more minutes, and he was effective. Different style of hockey, mind you. But
look at Kirill Kaprizov's numbers this year; they're a lot different.
Right. But Reaves has digressed. So, but Keefe can't come in and play him 2 minutes a night. That's showing up your GM. That's no different than, and I've talked about this on the show before too. If my scouting department drafts 10 guys over the last 2 years, and I get a spot, to pull somebody up from the Marlies, and I've got 10 draft picks, and I've got, a couple of guys that signed as a walk-on. And the guy that signed as a walk-on is a real good player, and he's actually producing more in the Marlies right now. He's not going to get that shot ahead of the drafted players because you're going to show up your scouts, right? Oh, we drafted this guy in the second round. He just got passed over by a guy that never went anywhere. And that's the way. It's unfortunate. You'd like to think that the best player available gets those minutes, but it doesn't work like that, right? There's a hierarchy involved. Now he's had the samples period, and he's seen, that Reaves is -11, and he's playing him too much. Obviously, he's got him out of the lineup, and I expect now there would have been a conversation between Sheldon and Treliving that basically he said, I'm sorry, didn't work out. And then they're planning how, and I believe you're going to see a rotation of the bottom three, and a couple guys in and out of the lineup. And I think that's the way it should be. I really do.
Well, okay, so not surprisingly, I think you remove completely, and I'm not surprised, Sheldon Keefe from any responsibility in this at all, because how many times did you see a goal get scored and then immediately he puts Reaves on the ice? How many times did you see a puck gets iced, can't get off the ice, he's stuck on, boom. John, I'm sorry, man. I can't get there with us constantly always giving benefit of the doubt to this coach. I can't get there, man.
He hasn't done anything wrong.
At game 14 of the season, when this guy is a -9 to start, and you're still playing him 10 minutes a night, I'm sorry, man. Are we trying to win hockey games, or are we trying to, live this positive environment where I stroke the general manager's ego and he feels better about me?
That's the way it works. That's the way that this league works. There's a hierarchy, and he's gone through it, and it didn't work. He's not a 10-minute player. He's not a regular. He's not a regularly dressed player, in my opinion. So now they regroup and they say, okay, what's his role?
I hope you're right. Listen, I hope you're right.
Yeah,
I hope you're right.
Want to talk about Zadorov? What do you think of that, Nolan? There's a lot of speculation out there.
Yeah, so I was excited when I heard the Zadorov rumors starting to start up. Obviously, he requested a trade after the Leafs game to Flames. He did it for a reason. Obviously, Toronto media, right after the game, requested a trade, sparked it up. For the right price, I would love Zadorov on the Leafs. Have him slot as the third left defenseman, replacing Gio, sub Gio in every now and then. I'd say. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Okay. I've watched the player for a long time. I like the player. I don't think he's as good as the game he had against Toronto the other night, and this is what happens here. The Toronto mainstream media sensationalizes everything, and because the guy scored a nice goal, top shelf slap shot, and got a big hit, and he's a useful defenseman. He's not going to come in here and do as much as people think he is, but if the price is right, and that's where it's going to get goofy, because the player's agent tweeted something about that he's going to be coming to Toronto. So I think you can look at that two ways. So the agent does that. It's going to piss off the Calgary Flames, because now they have a little bit of a pigeonhole to try to make this move, and Toronto knows that. So it would be, Calgary would be more apt to move him somewhere else than Toronto, just based on that, because they, Toronto can basically say, well, he wants to come here. Here's what we're offering, and that's what I think. I wouldn't overpay for the player. I think there's going to be a lot of players of that have what he brings to the table available over the next few months. So if you get the right deal, there was talk about Toronto's first pick, and there was talk about Nicholas Robertson. And I would do that. I would send the first pick. I'd send no, I'm not done. First pick, Nicholas Robertson, Klingberg, go that way. And then back you'd get
better get more than Zadorov.
Yeah, you get Zadorov and Tanev.
Yep.
So you get a right shot, you get a left shot, You got two useful NHL defensemen. You give up on Robertson, even though, but now is the time to move that kid because he's a goal a game or point a game for 4 games. He's actually contributing. He's that but we've got guys that can walk into that. Bobby McMahon, I really liked his game the other night, right? So I don't have a problem with him, sticking around. If you look at those two guys, putting them on the back end, you give up your first pick. It's going to be a late pick anyway. It's not an outstanding draft coming up in 24. I do that. I really do. I get that one done if that's there. But if it's going to be, they're asking for Nylander to be involved and this and that and the other, I would. There's going to be useful defensemen available. I don't make that. I don't pull the trigger on something that's going to be, you'd think a first round pick isn't crazy, but when you're getting two, solid NHL defenders to come in, looks like Timmins is going to be back either on Friday or on Sunday, is what I heard. So he's skating at full contact, and so what do you think of that? Would you guys do that move I just said?
Something like that. Yeah, Klingberg would definitely have to be going another way.
You got to, you know what? That's another project that, how much time do you have to, give him a leash? And if you can unload that contract and if it costs you a first pick, you do it. You just do it. It's unfortunate, but you do it.
Yeah, I'm throwing a red card on this play.
Okay. Wrong sport, but go ahead.
So, first of all, before we get into Zadorov, okay, I'd like to point out we had the exact player that we needed 2 years ago.
Who?
Ilya Lyubushkin.
No.
Ilya Lyubushkin, I don't care what anybody says. Ilya Lyubushkin is exactly the player that we need right now. Ilya Lyubushkin is a stay-at-home defenseman who's going to hit you in front of the net. He's not going to score. I don't need you to score. I need you to keep pucks out of the net. I need you to clear the front of the net. That's all I need you to do. We had Ilya Lyubushkin and again, the GM is gone now, but that GM, when he was here, sang his praises. The coach, your favorite guy in the world, sang his praises, loved what he brought to the team, loved everything about him, and then let him walk. So, I digress. Nikita Zadorov. Okay, Nikita Zadorov is a very tall, big, heavy defenseman. Do I like what Nikita Zadorov could bring to a team? Absolutely. Absolutely. He's a heavy presence. He plays hard along the wall. He wins puck battles. All of the things that we do not do on a regular basis, Nikita Zadorov would do. I don't have an issue with Nikita Zadorov per se. Okay?
Yeah.
What I have an issue with is what it's going to cost us to bring Nikita Zadorov in. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. When teams roll through Toronto, they don't roll through Toronto accidentally and make statements like this. They roll through Toronto because they know it gets pressed everywhere. Okay? Player comes out and says, I want to trade. Of course he says he wants to trade in Toronto because it gets picked up everywhere. If I'm Vancouver, am I interested in Zadorov? Absolutely. If I'm New Jersey, am I interested in Zadorov? Absolutely. On a Stanley Cup championship team, Nikita Zadorov is a fifth defenseman. Right? If we're being honest, let's call a spade a spade. He's a fifth defenseman. He's not playing top 4 minutes on a Stanley Cup team.
That's arbitrary. You don't know that.
I mean, I feel like I pretty much
Depends on the team. Depends on the team, honestly. In this team, he could be a top 4. With this team, he could be a top 4. If they're rolling offensively and they have the puck a lot, I think he could be. But he could be a 9 on some teams too. So that's not something that you can really quantify.
Well, I mean, I feel like I can because if I look at the player's history, in Buffalo, he was a young guy, drafted high, didn't pan out in Buffalo. Buffalo went, yeah, we can move you and get better. Then he went to Colorado, and Colorado went, listen, we like you, but we don't like you that much. And so then he signed in Chicago. And Chicago said, listen, you're really good. Yeah, kind of. But you moved on from him. You don't have a guy on his fifth team by the time he's 27 if he's a legit top 4 defenseman in the NHL. Sorry. 4 teams.
You do. There's more to the story.
Where's the case that that's happened?
There's much more to the story. From what I've understood, and I know a little bit about his Colorado experience.
Fair point. Okay.
Liked to party. There was a rumor with him and Varlamov that they were going pretty hard at a crucial time in the Avalanche schedule and out late. Blah 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 blah. Nathan McKinnon may or may not have had Varlamov by the throat outside the practice facility.
Love that kid.
After one of these incidents, but rumors,
John. Rumors. We can't confirm or deny
at this point.
We can't confirm or deny.
So anyway, and I think that followed him to Chicago. I think from what I've heard from my contacts in Calgary, he's cleaned it up. He's on the straight and narrow, and his play is indicative. He had 15 or 16 goals last year. Any defenseman that plays his style, heavy, big, defensive, that can pot over 10. You got to have a little bit of time for, and I think he's making better choices in his personal life. I don't know anything about his marital situation, but something wants to tell me he's recently married with a kid or something like that. So his trajectory from coming into the league with a lot of expectation, and then maybe his personal stuff.
New country and all that good stuff, new language. Listen, I can.
We know the Russians. A lot of the Russians like to have a little bit of fun away from the rink, and he's 27, 28 years old now, and if he's grown up, like I said before, I wouldn't overpay for him, but if there's a deal there that you can get him, that's not gonna take anything off your roster. And then especially if you can get rid of the Klimberg contract, bring in Tanev as well, I think you do it. It's like you said, he's 6'6".
He's huge.
He's tough.
He's great on the wall. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this.
So if you get him with the right partner and in the right, this kid could absolutely be a top 4.
I just looked at his stats because you said he had around 15 goals. That sounded pretty crazy to me. I just looked at his stats. He had 14 last year.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
But so here's the next question then. Okay, and like serious question. Let's say everything that you just said, bona fide 1,000 points, right?
Yeah.
He's turned the corner. He had a come to Jesus moment. He's now on the straight and narrow. Everything's great. Why is he playing 18 minutes a night in Calgary?
Why is he playing 18 minutes a night?
Yeah.
Why is 18 is a good number. If you're playing 18 minutes in the National Hockey League, you're a pretty good player. No?
Mark Giordano's playing 18 minutes a night.
Yeah, so?
His time on ice this year is down.
Player too.
I understand. You understand what I'm saying here, Nolan. His time is down big time.
But this year his time's down, and it's his first season being a minus since 2017.
The team's awful.
I'm not worried about that. Everybody on Calgary is a minus. I'm not worried about that.
I'm just saying since 2017-18 until last year, he was plus 10 last year.
How many minutes was he playing last year? He was over 20 minutes.
Whoa. I'm gonna shut you both up here for a second, okay?
Okay.
It's a different.
Take me to school.
It's a different coach, right? Like you got Daryl Sutter, who likes to meet guys, and he's an old school. And if you run somebody's head through the boards, you're going to play 25 minutes, right? The new guy, maybe not so much. I expect that number to come up, but you can't compare minutes from this year to last year if you have two absolutely different coaching staffs and systems and things like that. It's apples and oranges, right? It's a different coach.
I mean, you figure if you're a trade target that you're willing to give up, a first-round pick, a previous first-round pick, and an NHL defenseman for, you'd be playing more than you are. I don't know. I feel like that.
Didn't you say that John Klingberg isn't an NHL defenseman?
John, you know how I feel about John Klingberg.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're giving that first round to get rid of that deal. You're giving the first rounder to get rid of that deal, get some cap space to be able to bring these two kids in. And not kids. Tanev's got to be 32, 33. But
plus, yeah.
He's a vet, man. Tanev is a guy that I've liked. He'll come in.
I don't mind Chris Tanev. Chris Tanev's a fine NHL player.
Yeah. I think there's a deal there. I think there's some other stuff happening too. You
think McCabe could move?
McCabe, no. Okay, I think
so
they just have to figure him out.
I thought about this because we had a little a group chat and we kind of said, hey, what do we want to talk tonight? And when I was thinking about it, I thought if I was Calgary's in a bit of a rebuild, but not like a super rebuild mode. I think they just don't have the right pieces in Calgary. If it's me, that's what I think.
Yeah.
There's a year plus left on McCabe. I think McCabe, listen, he hasn't necessarily worked out here the way I thought he would. And I was a big Jake McCabe fan. John, when we did our trade deadline show, I had been advocating for Jake McCabe to be added, and it hasn't quite worked out the way I thought it would. But at the same point in time, I think Jake McCabe is a serviceable NHL defenseman. And maybe this particular spot isn't working for him. Fair enough. And listen, not every spot works for every player, right? So, maybe McCabe becomes the trade chip that you move. And maybe it's a McCabe, listen, I'm all for anything that gets rid of John Klingberg. Right at this point in time, Nolan, I would have you dress on defense for the Leafs over John Klingberg because it can't get any worse. But I don't know. I think McCabe may be a trade chip. Just my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, anybody's going to be involved in these discussions, and the nice thing about having a new general manager is he doesn't have that loyalty that maybe for Dubas to turn around 4 months after he traded for McCabe and gave up a lot to, move him in a package for a fifth defenseman may not be, something that he would do. But, I think Treliving's all in. I'm hearing some stuff before we get, we don't want to go too much longer. We want to talk about the Sweden stuff.
Trip. Yeah.
What I wanted to mention is I truly believe Patrick Kane's coming here. I truly believe that there's already a deal done. I heard somebody reported today that it's Buffalo for 2 years for.
Can we get breaking news along the bottom?
$7 million.
A little breaking news along the bottom here.
I believe that there's already a deal in place, and Toronto has to do some things to make it work. But I don't think it's going to be for very much money. I think it's going to be for $1 million with a couple million in bonuses. Or something to that effect. Games played bonus, maybe a points threshold, playoff games played, that kind of thing. I think Kane's made his money. I heard the teams that came out were the Rangers, Detroit, because he played with the kid there that he played with in Chicago. Yeah. And then obviously Buffalo, it's his hometown. Toronto and Dallas. Dallas was the other one that, Kane and Matthews are friends. I think they've had some conversations. I think if Toronto and I don't know why Treliving wouldn't do it at this point. That's not something that you go all in for and try to sign Patrick Kane at the deadline, not knowing if he can play. But if you can get him to a $1 or $2 million deal right now, then you have some flexibility. Then, you have a little bit of a bigger stick with Nylander in negotiation because you have a guy that, can walk into that top six, obviously, quite easily. And then you look at maybe a package coming back for Nylander if they can't come to, something that makes sense for both the team and the player. So watch for that. I believe that somebody said today it's going to be Buffalo. I don't see that. I don't see why he would think that's going to get him a cup in 2 years. Toronto can. Dallas certainly could.
I heard Florida too.
Florida, yeah. I mean, that's not a bad option for him either. But
I'm going to go on record.
He wants to be in Toronto. I think he really wants to be in Toronto, and I think Treliving is in a position where why wouldn't he, right? Why wouldn't he at this point entertain that and bring the player in and see how it goes?
I'm going on record right now, and I want it crystal clear. I have no interest in Patrick Kane. None.
Yeah.
Zero. None. We do not need Patrick Kane. None. We do not need him. That's not what this team needs. This team needs a defenseman. That's what we need.
Didn't say that we needed him. I'm just telling you that they're in on him.
Which would be very on brand for us. It would be very on brand. Let's get another guy who maybe could score 25 years ago, right? Who's coming off of an injury. Let's bring back Owen Nolan. Let's get Joe Nieuwendyk.
Nolan's 50.
You're missing. You know the point I'm making. We brought them in at the end, right? Yeah. After Owen Nolan had his run, after Nieuwendyk had his run. Like, we don't need 83-year-old Patrick Kane coming in off hip replacement surgery. That's not what this team needs. We've got guys that can put the puck in the net. We need guys that can help us keep the puck out of the net. So I am all out on Patrick Kane. I have no interest. Listen, my daughter, Cara Grace, she is all in. She loves Patrick Kane. She thinks Patrick Kane is fantastic. John, she's going to watch us tonight and be like, you know what, Dad? That Johnny, he's so smart. He always makes the right points. I guarantee you she's going to love you tonight.
She's a smart kid.
Yeah, she's going to love you tonight. I'm all out on Patrick Kane. I want nothing to do with him. That's my take on it. I have no interest in Patrick Kane. I'm not saying he's not a good player, and I'm not saying he can't come back and be a positive contribution. But if we're paying $5 million to Bertuzzi to skate around the ice, I don't need to pay $2 million to watch Patrick Kane do the same thing on the third line.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I don't think we need him.
Sorry, I'm not interested in that. I think Johnny just dipped out for a quick second.
Yeah,
so
I think we lost
while we're on the so we've talked Patrick Kane. Let's touch briefly, Nolan, on the upcoming week. We're in Sweden. It's the global series. We're playing. Who do we got? We got Detroit, Minnesota.
Yeah, we got Detroit at 2 p.m. Eastern time on Friday, and
DVRs, folks. 2 p.m. on Friday. Minnesota's at like 8 in the morning on Sunday.
8 a.m. Sunday.
So you can stay up late and watch Formula One in Las Vegas, and get up early in the morning and watch the Leafs in Sweden. Who knew?
Yeah.
What do you think about? Listen, let's quickly just touch on Detroit. I happen to think Detroit is a vastly improved team.
Yeah, me too.
I really like their
offensively.
I like the coach. I like what they've done so far. I think we're on par through 15 games. I think we got the same amount of points. But listen, Detroit always plays the Leafs tough. You know what? I do think though, if there's a time that Nylander is going to show up, it's going to be at home.
Yeah. Well, he showed up the whole year too.
Listen, 15 points in 15 straight games. Yeah. I've got no problem with William Nylander. But what I will say is, and what I would love, I don't know if they're going to do it, but what I would absolutely love to see, and if somebody's watching from Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, do something for Borje Salming. Have a recognition moment for Borje for the impact that he's had on this franchise who's going to Sweden. You have Matt Sundin, you've got Borje Salming, Inga Hammerström, all the great Swedish connections that we have to that country. I think if the Leafs are going there, you got to do something that recognizes the Swedish contribution. I'd love to see it.
I'd be willing to bet that they have something planned for that before the game. Yeah, at least maybe they get a helmet sticker or some tribute.
Maybe rock the Borje patch again. Throw the Borje patch on.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'd like that. And then Minnesota. Listen, I'm not afraid to tell you. I think Minnesota's a team on the decline. I like our chances against Minnesota. You know what? I talk about him all the time. I love Kirill Kaprizov. I think he's a fantastic hockey player. I just enjoy watching him play.
Yeah.
But listen, we're a better team than Minnesota. We should take those 2 points.
Yeah, their goaltending and defense has definitely dropped off a lot this year. Gustafson went from 930 to 890 this year. Fleury's near the end.
Hey, are we glad? Let's hold on before we finish up. Can we talk about how great we are, how happy we are that we did not give up Matthew Nyes for Fleury? Because that was the deal that was on the table. That apparently
I think
He would never have done that. I
that would've
wasn't.
been
apparently Shanahan was the guy who vetoed it. Apparently the deal was done. He went to
That would-
Shanahan, and Shanahan vetoed it, and that's where the problem started.
I think that deal included Hagel though too.
Hold on. If it included Hagel, you would have been okay with Hagel and Fleury for Nyes? I'm
It's
going on
basically
record.
Hagel.
I'm not okay with that deal.
Hagel for Nyes is basically what it would be.
Old man hit. No,
Did I hear you say that Detroit's a good hockey club?
I said Detroit is a vastly improved hockey team from where they've been. That's exactly what I said, verbatim.
No, I just wondered. I remembered us talking about that a few weeks ago. And
Hagel's 25. He's not even
Under the
old.
bus, Johnny. Like, you have no problem throwing me under the bus, eh? Just
throw you under the bus, and then I'll back over you if I have to.
yeah, you will. Yeah, you will.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, you can talk about this and that trade speculation for sure. Who knows? They could have got Hagel and Fleury for Nyes. You know what? Honestly, Nyes is showing that he's a 21-year-old player the last couple of games, in my opinion. I think he's a lot. He needs to get stronger on the puck, is I guess what I'm saying. And that doesn't mean anything about physical, brood or toughness.
No, I understand.
I watch as a skills guy and as a hockey guy. He needs to watch Matthews and some of the elite players in the league that are his size, big guys. And you have to use that frame, right? You have to have a skill set, and I think he does, but I don't think it's caught up to the NHL game yet, where you keep your body between the puck and your opponent, protecting the puck one-on-one. Now, in order to do that at the National Hockey League level, you have to be really, really slick on your feet, and you got to be very, very, good on your edges and move laterally, and that's why the elite players can do it. I think he's close. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be on that line. I think he absolutely should, because those are the two guys that have the puck so much. You can afford a guy to apprentice with them, so to speak. I think he's right where he should be, but he's a 21-year-old hockey player still. He's not where Austin Matthews was at 21, or some of these elite players. Will he get there? Absolutely. I think they're putting him in positions to succeed. Yeah, I like the kid, but yeah, and they're pros. They know, they're watching that. They're they got skills guys that are going out and working on down low one-on-one, getting some separation, using your body, using your reach, using your posture, that kind of stuff. So I think that's absolutely happening, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing them play in Sweden. Oh, and I heard you guys when I was disconnected about the Borja. They're actually all at the Borja. They're releasing a film about Borja, and
I love Borja,
and all the Leafs were at the premiere. So they set this up to premiere while Toronto's in town. So they were all. I saw a picture tonight. They're all in their suits and going to the. So yeah, this whole trip's going to be about Borja in the Toronto games. It's going to be a lot of stuff,
as it should.
I bet you his family comes out and drops a puck, and they do a tribute. And
I hope so.
I think so too.
Yeah,
we'll watch it, and we'll catch up Tuesday night.
All right, boys. Have a great week, eh?
Yeah, you too. See you, Nolan. See you, John.
Yeah. Take care.